I accidentally wandered into this place and went through some trials, and then I was told to save Sora. That is a quote from the most enigmatic character to date in the Kingdom Hearts series. His name is Yozora. He first presents himself, or is first introduced to us players through a commercial of a video game that we see in the world of Toy Story. Of course, all the events of the Kingdom Hearts story transpire. The DLC comes out, adds an extra layer to the story. Sora finds himself in the opposite of the real world, some world of darkness. He needs to get back to the real world, and he accidentally runs into this character, this enigmatic young man who has been in that world of darkness for a very long time, whether it be self-imposed. Well, he said, of course, according to that quote, he accidentally wandered into the place. He was in this place of darkness, right? And he went through a lot of trials about, one could only imagine what they were. And so I want to talk about like the symbolism behind that, because I wrote an article about it for my Patreon. If you guys want to check it out, the link is going to be in the description below. I wrote a lot about it, but I really want to talk about it because it's very, very interesting. And it brought up within me the idea of liminal spaces in life. Liminal periods of time, right? Like, comment, subscribe. We're going to get into it right now. Let's do it. I think my theory, we're not going to bring up too many the Kingdom Hearts theories, because that's not the focal point of the video. If we bring up Kingdom Hearts theories, we're going to be here until the second coming, right? Or the Kalki, if you want to bring in, Buddhism. What it is, honestly, my theory is, or what I want to talk about in regard to Yozora entering that dark space, is that it's essentially, for how I interpreted it, it's like a liminal space. A liminal space is a world in between worlds. It's almost like, if you want to be literal about it, the country of Georgia. It is a liminal space between the most eastern part of Eastern Europe and the most west part of Asia. So that's a sort of a liminal space, if you want to be literal. But how I see liminal spaces on how they work for us in real life is that sometimes our experiences in life it seems like it goes with the flow. Like, we have very, very good experiences. Everyone's happy with us. We wave, we get waved back at. Everything seems effortless. And then things happen, right? Maybe there's a call. Maybe it is due to some sort of call by the creator, if you guys want to be monotheistic, to evolve, to get to a next point. And so you're brought into a liminal space where you wave and you're not noticed. You try to be seen, but you are invisible. And so you are in this period of solitude, and you're working on yourself to eventually not escape the liminal space, because that's not supposed to be some opposing prison by the warden archetype of the creator, right? It's meant to be a place where it's supposed to structure you, to shape you, in order for you to be ready for the next area, right? Which is outside of the other end of the liminal space, not where you entered, but where you will exit, voluntarily, by the way. And so I brought up the whole Yozora thing because it was very interesting. That line really stuck with me. You know, he said he accidentally wandered into this place and went through some trials. When you begin an adventure into a liminal space like that, where your whole personality is being ripped apart, everything you rested upon, because we do, but believe it or not, we do have in our personalities, in all of our personalities, there are foundations, there are pillars of ideology that we lean on. Because if we didn't have any pillars of ideology, we would be exposed to everyone else, or the feelings and the stimuli that affects us on visceral levels by the environment, by everyone else. And so we could suffer a psychotic breakdown. And so we have pillars of personality, pillars of ideology. When you are existing in this liminal space, those pillars, right, are challenged by the things that you perceive in life, whether it be a simple interaction with someone that you are on the train with, or perhaps you're at work, you deal with a customer that asks a very insightful question about something seemingly surface level, like why is it that a pack of 3 pairs of socks cost X amount of money? And just maybe the tone of the sentence, maybe just the phrasing of the words, incites a thought, puts a seed of a thought in you about something completely different that challenges a pillar of belief that you've held for decades, right? And so these liminal spaces are very, very important for harboring and germinating thoughts and ideas like that, because we are all not perfect. And a lot of the pillars of personality and ideology that we've developed in our lives could be based off trauma, could be based off a reflexive protection from the environment at the time that those pillars were being built. And so we kept them up to in our adulthood, and they no longer serve us. And so we need to break them down in order to build something else. You know, that's much more pertinent. So liminal spaces are incredibly important. This is the same thing, right? They could be akin to the dark night of the soul, right? The dark night of the soul was the whole idea of the ego being broken down right in front of you. You're watching it all happen. It happens mostly in solitude. It could happen around, in your group, you could be a very, very social person, and it could happen with your friends. But the dark night of the soul and existing in a liminal space are one and the same. You're who you thought you were. Everything you thought you knew is being broken and shattered right in front of you. And you're trying to learn about a new way. Or you're not necessarily trying to learn, but slowly but surely you are learning about a new way of existing. A lot of the times, I think that we are all put in liminal spaces in general. I'm one of those crackpots that believe that we all have the same life, the same trajectory in life. We're all meant to ascend. We're all meant to build. We're all meant to learn more things. However, based on, genetic proclivities and experiences and where we're born, those journeys, those checkpoints are a little bit more elongated than, say, other people's. But at the end of the day, we're all going to the same place. And so we are all eventually presented with these liminal spaces. We all enter these liminal spaces, these dark nights of the soul. However, a lot of us are not really taught how to deal with these spaces, right? Because a lot of us that were in those spaces didn't know that we were in those spaces. We just thought that it was just a period of depression, a period of loneliness, solitude, and we just went through it. When in reality, we've entered these spaces, but because of our checkpoints that we had, our fate, our preordained paths, and we were meant to glean something, right? Important information that will serve us upon exit. And so for the people that don't see the silver lining of being in these hyperbolic time chambers, we find some way to cope with a lot of those feelings, or to evade those feelings. We go to drugs, right? We go to women. We go to blind ourselves with, of course, things that are even as potent as drugs, which are social media, random scrolling, looking at adult film content, all to avoid the necessary work and pressure that is imposed onto us by our preordained path by existing in that liminal space. That is it. Easier said than done. Of course, when you are in the situation, it's much harder to speak about it, or even let alone look for a silver lining, because the pressure is intense. Things don't seem to work out. You are sad for seemingly no reason. You don't feel like talking. You don't feel like engaging, let alone trying to find some sort of gem in being in that place in the first place. I get it. I really do. But this, for the people that maybe are in their own dark nights of the soul, or in their world in between, or have wandered accidentally into this space and going through some trials, this is what these spaces are meant for. They're meant for cultivation of your soul. They're meant for the erosion of pillars of personality and ideology that no longer serve you, and for the reconstruction of a new identity that is more in line with who you are meant to be, right? And who you are meant to become and what you are meant to gain. And so you need to look at it, despite all the suffering that you might be going through mentally and emotionally and spiritually and existentially, and see if you could become, or find the most ergonomic way to go with the pressures of existing in that liminal space and existing and becoming who you're meant to be. That's all I really have to say about it, guys. If you enjoyed that stuff, like, comment, subscribe, share the video with some peers. Don't ever let this place get you down. We are all having, going through whatever it is that we're going through. There are periods of highs, there are periods of lows, nadirs and peaks, ups and downs. And so we have to ebbs and flows. And so we have to understand that there's the season for things. There's eventually things that are bad are going to be good again. The pendulum always oscillates between two absolutes constantly. The speed at which they oscillate, it all depends on your reluctance or your acceptance of the spaces that you occupy for the seasons that you occupy them for. That's really all I have to say, man. Stay radiant, guys. I'm going to see you guys in the next video.